cell and didn't disclose much about the house's past. From the first night, strange occurrences began. Emma's son, Jacob, complained of whispers in his room after lights out, saying they were too soft to understand, but sounded urgent. Emma assumed it was just the wind or the new environment playing tricks on his mind. As days passed, the whispers grew louder, and Emma heard them too. They seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, especially in the dead of night. The family started to feel watched, and cold spots appeared randomly throughout the house, chilling to the bone. Determined to understand the source, Emma researched the house's history and discovered a grim tale. The original owner, a stern and reclusive man, was rumored to have gone mad, whispering to the walls, spending days locked in his study before he mysteriously disappeared. No trace of him was ever found, and subsequent owners reported odd happenings, though none stayed long enough to investigate further. Emma decided to confront whatever haunted their home. She set up recording devices in the most active rooms, hoping to capture the whispers or any other anomalies. For several nights, nothing unusual was recorded, but on the fourth night, the devices captured a chilling message. "Find me, set me free." The family was torn between fleeing and uncovering the truth. As fear and curiosity intertwined, they embarked on a journey through the house's hidden recesses, discovering secret passages and a sealed room in the basement, hinting at dark secrets long buried. The story could continue with their exploration of the house's hidden parts, unraveling the mystery of the original owner's disappearance and the source of the whispers that plagued their home. This setup leaves room for the story to be continued, delving deeper into the house's mysteries, the origins of the whispers, and the family's quest to either escape the haunting or confront the spirits dwelling within. In the sealed room in the basement, Emma and her family found an old, dust-covered study filled with archaic books, dimly lit by a single flickering light bulb. The air was thick with the scent of mold and decay. Among the scattered papers and faded photographs, they found a journal belonging to the original owner, its pages yellowed with age. The journal entries started mundane, detailing daily life and the house's construction. However, as they flipped through the pages, the tone shifted. The owner wrote of hearing voices that no one else could hear, whispers that grew increasingly demanding, speaking of hidden truths and buried secrets. The entries became more erratic, filled with sketches of strange symbols and frantic notes about a legacy that must be protected at all costs. As Emma read aloud, the temperature in the room dropped, and the faint sound of whispering filled the air, growing louder with each passing word read from the journal. The family felt an unseen presence, as if the act of reading the journal had awakened something long dormant within the house. Meanwhile, Jacob wandered away from the group, drawn by a soft, distinct whisper calling his name. He found a hidden door behind a bookshelf, leading to a narrow, dark tunnel. Ignoring the danger, driven by an inexplicable compulsion, he ventured inside, the door closing silently behind him. Back in the study, Emma and her husband realized Jacob was missing. Panicked, they searched the room, finally noticing the open bookshelf door. The whispering grew to a cacophonous intensity, urging them to follow into the darkness. As they navigated the tunnel, the air grew colder, and the whispers became clearer, now speaking in a language they could strangely understand, promising answers and urging them deeper into the heart of the house's secrets. The tunnel ended in a large underground chamber where the whispers suddenly ceased. In the center of the chamber stood a stone pedestal holding an ancient, ornate box. The room was eerily silent, but the box seemed to emanate a faint, hypnotic hum, as if it were alive and beckoning to be opened. The story pauses here, leaving the mystery of the box in the underground chamber unresolved, beckoning the reader to ponder its contents and the secrets it holds, setting the stage for the next chapter in the haunting tale of Emma's family and their new home. In the sealed room in the basement, Emma and her family found an old, dust-covered study filled with ancient books, strange artifacts, and a large, ornate mirror that dominated one wall. The air was thick with the scent of mold and decay, but beneath it, there was a faint hint of something else, something metallic and sharp, like blood. As they investigated the room, the whispers grew louder, now discernible as desperate pleas and angry demands. The mirror, they realized, was the focal point of the supernatural activity. Its surface rippled like water when they approached, and shadowy figures seemed to move within its depths. Emma, driven by a mix of fear and determination, decided they needed to uncover the connection between the mirror and the house's former owner. Her research led her to diaries and letters hidden in the study's secret compartments. They told of a man obsessed with the afterlife and communicating with spirits. He believed the mirror was a gateway to another world and had conducted bizarre rituals to open it. The family felt a growing sense of unease, realizing the house's previous occupant might have unleashed something he couldn't control. They started to experience more intense phenomena. Objects moving on their own, doors slamming shut, and the mirror's surface occasionally glowing with a ghostly light. Determined to find answers and put an end to their nightmare, Emma planned to delve deeper into the rituals and the history of the mirror. She theorized that if they could understand the rituals, they might find a way to reverse them and close the gateway. Late one night, as they were poring over the ancient texts, a sudden, ear-piercing scream echoed through the house, coming from the direction of the basement. Rushing to the source, they found the mirror's surface swirling with dark, smoky tendrils, and a figure seemed to be struggling to emerge from its depths. The story pauses here, leaving the door open to explore what comes out of the mirror, the true nature of the gateway, and how the family will confront the increasingly dangerous supernatural forces at play in their new home. figure emerging from the mirror was that of the original owner. His eyes wild with madness and desperation. He was trapped between worlds, his soul bound to the mirror, a prisoner of his own making. The room grew colder, and the air crackled with a palpable energy as he stepped fully into their world, his appearance flickering between a living man and a spectral phantom. Emma and her family watched in horror as the apparition spoke of his experiments with the afterlife, his attempts to breach the barriers between worlds, and the terrible price of his ambition. He revealed that the mirror was not just a gateway, but a prison, and he had become its captive, tormented by entities from the other side. The whispers, it turned out, were not just his, but the voices of many spirits, some malevolent, others just lost, all drawn to the mirror's power. The house, with its history of strange occurrences and quick succession of owners, had suffered from the mirror's influence, the barrier between the living and the dead thinning over time. The family realized that to free themselves and the trapped spirits, they needed to seal the gateway. The original owner, bound to the mirror, offered knowledge of a ritual that could close the portal and end the hauntings. But it required items hidden throughout the house, each with its own story and spectral guardian. As they set out to collect these items, strange visions and encounters tested their resolve, revealing the history of the house and the tragedies it had witnessed. Each item brought them closer to completing the ritual, but also drew the attention of darker forces determined to stop them. With each step, the boundary between the living and the dead blurred further, leading to a confrontation that threatened to consume the house and everyone in it. The family, bound together by fear and courage, continued their desperate quest to end the nightmare, not realizing that the true key to closing the gateway was closer than they ever imagined. The story pauses here, leaving open the next phase of their journey, the completion of the ritual, and the ultimate fate of the family and the haunted house. As Emma and her family gathered the necessary items for the ritual, the house seemed to fight back, its hallways stretching and winding unnaturally, rooms swapping places, and ghostly apparitions becoming more aggressive. The collected items, a silver dagger, a book of ancient rites, a locket containing a portrait painted in the 1800s, and a set of strange, rune-inscribed stones, seemed to pulse with energy, hinting at their power and purpose. Each item's recovery unveiled more of the house's dark past, including tragedies and wicked deeds that had occurred within its walls, fueling the mirror's gateway with anguish and despair. The spirits, both benign and malevolent, began to manifest more frequently, some pleading for release, others seeking to perpetuate their torment. Amid this chaos, the family discovered that the mirror's power was tied to the lunar cycle, and the upcoming full moon would bring the gateway to its peak strength. They had a narrowing window of time to perform the ritual and seal the breach before the barrier between worlds could be torn asunder permanently. As the full moon approached, the house's supernatural activity reached a feverish intensity. The family, with the guidance of the spectral original owner, prepared the ritual in the basement study. They arranged the items in a specific pattern around the mirror, chanting verses from the ancient book as the air shimmered with otherworldly energy. Just as the ritual neared its completion, a violent surge of power erupted from the mirror, shattering its calm surface into a whirlpool of spectral light and dark shadows. The entities trapped within the mirror, both innocent and malevolent, spilled into the room, creating a maelstrom of ethereal chaos. In the eye of this supernatural storm, the family held fast to the ritual, their voices uniting in the ancient incantation. The silver dagger, guided by Emma's hand, found its mark in the ground before the mirror, embedding itself in the very heart of the arcane sigils etched into the floorboards centuries ago. The story pauses as the ritual reaches its climax, with the fate of the family, the spirits, and the breach between worlds hanging in the balance, leading to further discoveries and challenges in the haunted tapestry of the house's history. The ground beneath the house trembled as if the very earth were reacting to the ritual's power. The air crackled with energy, the mirror's frame splintering as the boundary between the living and the dead thinned to near non-existence. Emma and her family, encircled by the spectral tumult, felt the surge of energies as past and present collided. Amidst the chaos, the spirits began to coalesce into a singular, overwhelming presence, a manifestation of the house's tortured soul. This entity, formed from centuries of grief and wrongdoing, confronted the family, its form constantly shifting, faces of the past flashing across its visage, each one a memory of sorrow or pain. The ritual, now reaching its zenith under the light of the full moon, drew the entity closer, binding it within the confines of the ancient symbols and runes. The silver dagger, imbued with the family's determination and the power of the collected artifacts, acted as a conduit, channeling the house's haunted history and the entity's essence back into the mirror. As the final words of the incantation were spoken, a blinding light erupted from the mirror, enveloping everything. The boundary that had weakened was now being mended, the breach sealing as the entity and the myriad spirits were drawn back into the mirror's depths, their whispers fading into silence. However, just as it seemed the nightmare was ending, a deep, resonant echo surged through the house, hinting that the mirror's gateway, while closed, was not entirely destroyed. The entity, though diminished, left behind a shard of its essence, a lingering piece of the puzzle, suggesting that the full scope of the house's mysteries was yet to be uncovered. The family, exhausted yet relieved, realized their journey through the haunted legacy of their home was not over. There were more secrets to unearth, more layers to the history of the old Victorian house. The sealed room in the basement, the mirror, and the entity were just the beginning. The story pauses here, with the family poised to delve deeper into the enigma of their home, understanding that their fight to reclaim peace from the clutches of the supernatural was far from finished, and the true resolution lay in uncovering the complete history of the house and its spectral inhabitants. In the aftermath of the ritual, the house was eerily quiet. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a tentative peace. However, the shard of the entity's essence, a remnant of its power, remained a silent, pulsing beacon of unresolved mysteries within the mirror's cracked frame. As days passed, Emma and her family began to notice subtle changes. Shadows lingered longer than natural, and reflections in the house's many mirrors seemed to shift, hinting at hidden depths. The whispering had ceased, but now faint echoes of laughter, crying, and conversations from bygone eras drifted through the halls, as if the house were replaying its past, determined to prevent any resurgence of the gateway's power. Emma embarked on a quest to learn more about the entity and the origins of the mirror. Her research led her to archives, old newspapers, and interviews with the descendants of previous occupants. Each piece of information revealed layers of history intertwined with the house, including tales of a powerful family dynasty, a tragic love story, and a curse that led to the mirror's creation as a boundary between life and death. Meanwhile, Jacob, Emma's son, became increasingly drawn to the study where the mirror stood. He felt a strange connection to it, a pull that hinted at a deeper, personal link to the house's history. His dreams were vivid, filled with images of people and events that he later found corresponded with the house's past occupants and their lives. As the full moon approached again, the family noticed the mirror's crack, pulsing with a faint light. It was as if the shard of the entity was awakening, growing stronger with the lunar cycle. Emma realized that to fully understand and perhaps end the haunting, they needed to trace the mirror's origins and the reasons for its creation. Their journey took them through the town's history, uncovering secrets long buried and connecting the dots between the house, the mirror, and the family that once dominated the town. They learned of ancient rituals, binding pacts, and the mirror's role as a lock on a door that should never be opened. The story pauses as Emma and her family stand on the threshold of a new revelation, ready to explore the hidden chambers and forgotten tunnels that lie beneath the house, each step taking them closer to the truth about the mirror and its connection to their own fate. As Emma, Jacob, and their family delved deeper into the labyrinth beneath their home, they uncovered a series of chambers, each revealing more of the mirror's true purpose and the history of the house. In the deepest chamber, they found a vast library filled with ancient tomes and artifacts, the heart of the original owner's obsession with the afterlife and the supernatural. Among these relics, they discovered the mirror's blueprint, which detailed its creation as a portal to harness the spiritual energy of the land. A land cursed by a tragic event centuries before the house was built. The mirror was not just a gateway, but a lock, designed to contain the curse and prevent it from spreading. Realizing the shard of the entity's essence was the key to the final resolution. Emma and Jacob, guided by the spectral remnants of the house's past, performed a last ritual to cleanse the mirror and the land. They combined their efforts with the benign spirits trapped within the mirror, channeling the energy through the silver dagger, which acted as a conduit to to repair the shattered boundary between worlds. As the ritual reached its climax, the shard of the entity, along with the collected energies of the land's curse, was pulled into the mirror. The house shook violently, a roaring sound filling the air as if reality itself was being torn apart. Then, with a blinding flash of light, silence fell. The mirror, once a source of darkness and fear, now reflected only the room and its occupants, no longer a prison for tortured souls or a doorway to other realms. The house, freed from the curse and the entity's influence, became just a house, its sinister atmosphere replaced with a serene calm. Emma and her family, having unraveled the mysteries and ended the cycle of torment, decided to stay in the house, no longer haunted, but filled with the history and memories of all who had lived there before. They became the guardians of the secrets they had uncovered, ensuring that the mirror, now harmless, remained undisturbed. The story concludes with the family living peacefully, the horrors of the past laid to rest. The house on the edge of town, once a place of fear and mystery, stood as a testament to their journey through the shadows of history, a journey that brought them closer and revealed the strength of their bonds. The mirror, silent and still, served as a reminder of the thin veil between worlds and the power of unity in facing the darkness. The stunning ending to this mystery will completely play with your emotions. In the quaint town of Greyhaven, a series of unexplained disappearances had the community on edge. Over several months, people vanished without a trace, their last known locations scattered across town, leaving no pattern or clue. Among the concerned was local detective Sarah Jennings, whose sister, Anna, had been one of the missing. The investigation led Sarah through a maze of dead ends and half-truths, with each disappearance seemingly disconnected from the others. The only common thread was a strange, fleeting scent of lilacs reported at each disappearance site, a detail that puzzled Sarah, as lilacs were not native to the area. Driven by a mix of professional duty and personal desperation, Sarah delved deeper into the town's history, uncovering a forgotten legend about the Lilac Lady, a figure said to appear in times of great turmoil, leaving behind the scent of lilacs. This spectral lady was a harbinger of change, though stories of her nature varied between benevolent protector and vengeful spirit. As the anniversary of the first disappearance approached, the tension in Greyhaven reached its peak. Sarah, piecing together the disparate clues, followed her intuition to the town's old cemetery, where lilacs bloomed unnaturally out of season around an unmarked grave. That night, under the light of the full moon, Sarah witnessed a phantasmal figure shrouded in lilac-scented mist moving through the cemetery. Following at a distance, she watched as the figure stopped at various graves, finally coming to rest at the unmarked one surrounded by lilacs. Compelled to confront the figure, Sarah stepped forward, and the Lilac Lady turned to face her, revealing a face that was hauntingly familiar. It was Anna, Sarah's missing sister, yet altered, her eyes filled with an otherworldly light, Anna spoke, her voice echoing with both warmth and sadness, revealing the truth that shook Sarah to her core. The missing townspeople were not victims of foul play, but had been chosen by the supernatural forces of Greyhaven to become guardians of the town, protecting it from an ancient, hidden evil that lay beneath its streets. Anna explained that the guardians, once chosen, would vanish from the physical world, but remain tethered to Greyhaven, existing between the veils of life and death, their presence marked only by the scent of lilacs. Sarah, overwhelmed by grief and revelation, realized that the disappearances, including her sisters, were sacrifices for the greater good, keeping the town safe. The story pauses here, leaving room for further exploration of Greyhaven's mysteries, the nature of the ancient evil, and Sarah's potential role in the town's cryptic legacy. As Sarah grappled with the revelation, Anna's form began to fade, her time in the physical world waning. Before completely disappearing, she implored Sarah to protect the secret of the guardians and the ancient evil they held at bay, warning that its awakening would bring calamity to Greyhaven and beyond. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's investigation took a new direction. She delved into the town's archives, piecing together historical accounts, folklore, and the sudden endings of previous guardian lines. She learned that the guardian's strength was linked to the town's collective belief in the supernatural, which had waned over the years, weakening the barrier keeping the ancient evil contained. Determined to strengthen this barrier and honor her sister's memory, Sarah embarked on a subtle campaign to rekindle the town's awareness of its mystical heritage, promoting local legends and folklore without revealing the true stakes. However, her efforts were met with skepticism from the newer generations, who viewed these tales as mere superstitions. Meanwhile, strange occurrences began to rise. Inexplicable weather patterns, sightings of ghostly figures, and an increasing sense of unease pervaded the town. The scent of lilacs became more prevalent, a sign that the barrier was weakening, and the guardians were struggling to maintain it. Sarah realized that more direct action was needed. She sought out descendants of the original guardian families, hoping to awaken any latent connections to the supernatural forces protecting Greyhaven. Among these descendants was Ethan, a young man who had always felt an unexplainable pull towards the town's history, despite his family's insistence on leaving the past behind. Together, they discovered hidden symbols and markers around the town, which formed a map leading to the source of the ancient evil, a sealed crypt beneath the old church, long forgotten and overgrown. The crypt was marked with sigils and wards, some of which had been disturbed, explaining the recent surge in paranormal activity. As Sarah and Ethan prepared to investigate the crypt and find a way to reinforce the weakening seals, the ground trembled slightly, a whisper of the dormant evil stirring below, the air filled with the thick scent of lilacs, a warning that time was running out. The story pauses here, with Sarah and Ethan on the cusp of uncovering the secrets of the crypt and the true nature of the ancient evil, their actions critical to the survival of Greyhaven and the legacy of the Guardians. As Sarah grappled with the revelation from Anna, the Lilac Lady, she felt a mix of sorrow and duty. Her sister, along with the other guardians, had been protecting Greyhaven from a threat so ancient and malevolent that its true nature was lost to time. Sarah's resolve hardened. She decided to uncover this hidden evil and find a way to end the cycle of sacrifice. Digging through the town's archives and old lore, Sarah learned of an ancient entity known only as the Darkness Below that once preyed upon the town's inhabitants, feeding on their fears and despair. The first guardians, centuries ago, had managed to contain it beneath the town, its power held at bay by their vigilance and the lilac-scented mists that marked the boundary of its prison. The pattern of disappearances, Sarah realized, coincided with the weakening of this age-old barrier. Each new guardian was chosen as the previous one's strength waned, a cycle of renewal that kept the darkness below from emerging. However, the increasing frequency of disappearances suggested that the entity was growing stronger, or the guardian's ability to contain it was diminishing. Sarah's investigation led her to the heart of Greyhaven's oldest district, where strange symbols and cryptic runes were hidden in the architecture, part of an intricate web of protection laid down over generations. She theorized that restoring and reinforcing these symbols could strengthen the Guardian's efforts, and perhaps delay or even prevent the need for further sacrifices. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah enlisted the help of local historians and scholars, embarking on a secretive mission to restore the town's protective sigils. As they worked, Sarah felt the oppressive weight of the darkness below, its presence like a cold shadow over her heart. But she pressed on, driven by the hope of saving her sister and the town. One night, while tracing the path of the old protective ley lines, Sarah and her team stumbled upon an underground chamber, long sealed away, at the center of which lay an ancient well, its waters black and still. The air around it was thick with the scent of lilacs, and Sarah knew they had found the physical anchor for the darkness below. The story pauses here, with Sarah standing on the brink of a dark discovery, the nature of the ancient evil below Greyhaven about to be unveiled, and the battle to seal it away once more just beginning. Sarah, reeling from the revelation of her sister's transformation into the Lilac Lady, struggled to reconcile her grief with her newfound understanding of Greyhaven's secret protectors. As she delved deeper into the town's lore, she uncovered records of ancient rituals and covenants made with enigmatic forces, agreements that promised safety in exchange for the guardians. Determined to unravel the full extent of these mysteries, Sarah's investigation led her to a hidden archive beneath the town's library, where she found scrolls and texts predating the town itself. These documents spoke of a primordial darkness, a malevolent force that the town's founders had discovered and subsequently bound beneath the land on which Greyhaven was built. The Guardians, Sarah learned, were not just protectors, but anchors, their presence maintaining the seals that kept the darkness at bay. Each disappearance coincided with a weakening of these seals, necessitating a new guardian to fortify them. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Sarah realized that the cycle of disappearances was accelerating, indicating that the ancient evil was stirring, growing stronger and threatening to break free. The lilac-scented mist that heralded the guardian's appearances was a sign of the seals straining under the pressure of the encroaching darkness. Driven by a desire to protect her town and find a way to bring back her sister, Sarah sought out the origins of the covenant with the town's founders. Her search led her to the ruins of an old estate on the outskirts of Greyhaven, where the town's founders had first made their pact with the supernatural forces. Exploring the estate, Sarah discovered a subterranean chamber with inscriptions that matched those in the ancient texts. The chamber was the focal point of the town's mystical energies and the heart of the seals holding back the darkness. As Sarah pieced together the ancient rites and prepared to strengthen the seals herself, she felt the darkness beneath Greyhaven stir. As if aware of her intentions, the air grew thick with anticipation, and the scent of lilacs became overpowering, signaling the imminent rise of the Guardians and the approaching confrontation with the ancient evil. The story pauses here, with Sarah standing on the brink of a cosmic battle, poised to delve into the supernatural depths of Greyhaven to save her sister and the town from the darkness looming beneath. Sarah, grappling with the revelation of her sister's transformation into a guardian, delved further into the mystery of Greyhaven's hidden evil. The Lilac Lady, or Anna, shared fragments of history that hinted at an ancient curse laid upon the land, a curse that threatened to awaken and bring calamity to the town unless kept in check by the Guardians. Determined to uncover the full extent of this threat and find a way to bring her sister back, Sarah explored the oldest parts of Greyhaven, guided by the faint scent of lilacs. Her investigations led her to the town's original founding documents, hidden away in the dusty archives of the local library, which spoke of a pact made with a mysterious entity to ensure the town's prosperity. As the days passed, strange occurrences began to escalate in Greyhaven. Shadows lingered longer than natural. Cold spots appeared without reason, and residents reported unsettling dreams filled with cryptic warnings. It became clear that the ancient evil beneath the town was stirring, its influence growing stronger. Sarah, with the help of a few trusted allies, including a knowledgeable librarian and a reclusive historian, began to piece together the ritual needed to reinforce the Guardian's power and reseal the evil. The ritual required objects connected to Greyhaven's history, each tied to the town's founding families, and had to be performed at a specific location. The unmarked grave in the cemetery, the epicenter of the supernatural activity. As they gathered the necessary artifacts, The boundaries between the physical and supernatural worlds in Greyhaven grew increasingly blurred. Spectral figures roamed the streets at night, and the scent of lilacs became almost overpowering, a sign of the Guardian's growing power and the rising threat beneath the town. The night of the ritual arrived, coinciding with a rare celestial event, a blood moon, which the documents claimed would amplify the town's ley lines and give them one chance to reinforce the seal on the ancient evil. Sarah and her team, surrounded by the Guardians, including Anna, commenced the ritual in the cemetery. The air thickened, and the ground trembled as they recited the ancient incantations and arranged the artifacts around the grave. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the outcome of their desperate bid to save Greyhaven. The story pauses here, with Sarah and her allies in the midst of their struggle against the ancient evil. The fate of Greyhaven hanging in the balance, and the true nature of the town's pact with the supernatural, yet to be fully uncovered. As the blood moon reached its zenith, casting a crimson glow over Greyhaven, the ritual intensified. The artifacts began to resonate, emitting a soft, luminescent light that mingled with the lilac-scented mist enveloping the cemetery. The ground beneath Sarah and her allies pulsated with energy, as if the land itself was responding to the ritual. The air crackled with power, and the spectral guardians, led by Anna, formed a protective circle around the ritual site, their forms becoming more solid, more present than ever before. They chanted in unison with Sarah, their voices a harmonious blend of the living and the dead, creating a bridge between the worlds. As the ritual reached its climax, a deep, ominous rumbling emanated from below the ground, shaking the earth. The ancient evil, a dark force bound by the town's ancestors for centuries, strained against its bonds, threatening to break free. Shadows twisted and writhed around the edges of the cemetery, attempting to breach the protective circle formed by the guardians. Sarah, focusing all her will and energy, recited the final incantation from the ancient documents, her voice rising above the tumult. The artifacts, linked to Greyhaven's founding families, glowed brighter, their power peaking as they anchored the ritual, reinforcing the seal on the malevolent force below. Suddenly, a surge of pure energy erupted from the unmarked grave, the epicenter of the ritual, shooting skyward and illuminating the night with a blinding light. The ground settled, the rumbling ceased, and the shadows dissipated, repelled by the burst of power. As the light faded, a profound silence enveloped the cemetery. The blood moon's red glow waned, giving way to the soft silver light of the waning night. The guardians, including Anna, looked visibly diminished, their task complete. But at what cost? In the aftermath, the town of Greyhaven experienced an unprecedented calm. The scent of lilacs lingered, but now it was soothing. A reminder of the guardian's sacrifice and protection. Sarah, though relieved at the apparent success of the ritual, felt a deep sense of loss. Her sister forever bound to the role of protector, her presence tied to the town's hidden depths. The story pauses with Greyhaven at peace, the immediate threat quelled, but the mystery of the ancient evil and the town's founding pact remains. The balance between the natural and supernatural worlds has been restored, yet the potential for future upheavals lingers. With Sarah and her allies now guardians of a secret that spans the veil between life and death. As Sarah and her team conducted the ritual under the blood moon, the air around Greyhaven's cemetery crackled with energy. The gathered artifacts, imbued with the town's history and pain, glowed with a soft, ethereal light. The guardians, including Anna, formed a protective circle around the group, their spectral forms shimmering in the moonlight. Suddenly, the ground at the center of the circle began to split, revealing a dark abyss that pulsed with a malevolent energy. From this abyss, whispers and screams echoed, carrying the sorrow and anger of centuries. The ancient evil, a formless shadow, began to seep out, tendrils of darkness reaching towards the surface. Sarah, maintaining her focus, continued the ritual, her voice steady but strained under the weight of the rising darkness. The historian and librarian chanted alongside her, their words weaving a complex spell designed to reinforce the weakened barriers between worlds. As the ritual neared its completion, the shadowy tendrils lashed out, striking at the protective circle. The guardians, including Anna, pushed back, their lilac-scented presence a counterforce to the encroaching darkness. The battle of energies became more intense, the ground shaking, and the air filled with the clash of supernatural forces. In the heat of the confrontation, Sarah caught glimpses of Greyhaven's past through the swirling energies. The founding families making the pact with the entity, the construction of the town over sacred ground, and the gradual corruption that led to the curse. As the final words of the ritual were spoken, a brilliant light erupted from the artifacts, piercing the darkness and driving the entity back into the abyss. The light spread, flowing along the ley lines like liquid fire, sealing the cracks and healing the rifts. However, just as victory seemed assured, Sarah felt a profound tug in her soul, a realization that the ritual required a personal sacrifice to complete the seal. The guardians, bound to the town's fate, could only contain the evil, not vanquish it. To end the cycle, a new guardian, one who understood both the human and supernatural sides of Greyhaven, would need to join the ranks. The story pauses at this critical juncture, with Sarah facing the ultimate decision: to sacrifice her place in the physical world and become a guardian, ensuring the town's safety, or to find another way to seal the evil without losing herself, all while the true depth of Greyhaven's secrets and the origins of the ancient pact remain veiled in shadow. In the tense moments following the ritual's climax, Sarah stood at the precipice of decision. The malevolent entity, though beaten back, lingered at the edge of the abyss, waiting for the seal to weaken again. The guardians, their forms stabilizing as the ritual's effects took hold, looked toward Sarah, their eyes conveying a silent plea for her to make the ultimate sacrifice and join them. The air in Greyhaven Cemetery hung heavy, charged with the potential of what was to come. Sarah, feeling the weight of her ancestors' actions and the future of the town in her hands, struggled with the choice before her. The idea of leaving her physical life behind was daunting, yet the prospect of ensuring Greyhaven's safety was compelling. Before making her decision, Sarah sought to uncover more about the pact and the entity. With the help of the historian and librarian, she delved into the final, most hidden records of the town's archives. There, they discovered a lost chapter of the town's history, revealing that the pact was not just a simple agreement for prosperity, but a complex binding of a powerful entity that the founders had unwittingly released from its ancient prison. This entity, once a guardian of the land, had been corrupted over millennia, its purpose twisted into a desire for revenge against the living. The founders' ritual had trapped it, but also linked it to the town's fate, creating the cycle of guardianship and sacrifice that had followed. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah realized that becoming a guardian was not just a matter of sacrifice, but of rectifying the original mistake. She began to see another way to end the cycle, a way to free both the town and the entity from their shared curse. With a new plan forming, Sarah and her allies crafted an amended ritual, one that would not only seal the entity away, but also attempt to heal the corruption that had soured its purpose. This ritual required the combined efforts of the living residents and the spectral guardians, a unity of past and present to forge a stable future. As they prepared, the entity, sensing its potential fate, stirred the remaining shadows in Greyhaven, causing disturbances and fear among the townspeople. Sarah worked to calm the town, her resolve strengthening, her role as a bridge between the human and supernatural becoming clear. The story pauses as the amended ritual begins, with Sarah at its heart, guiding both the living and the dead in a combined effort to heal the ancient wounds of the land and end the cycle of guardianship and sacrifice. The outcome of this ritual would not only decide the fate of Greyhaven, but also reveal the true nature of the bond between the town and the entity, and whether the scars of the past can finally be mended. As the amended ritual commenced, the townspeople of Greyhaven, guided by Sarah, joined hands around the cemetery, their collective will focused on healing and sealing the ancient entity. The spectral guardians, led by Anna, merged their energies with the living, creating a powerful conduit for the ritual's magic. The air vibrated with the combined forces of life and death. The ley lines glowing intensely beneath the town. As Sarah recited the new incantations, her voice clear and strong, the entity, sensing the threat to its existence, unleashed a final, desperate assault, its shadowy tendrils lashing out, trying to break the circle and disrupt the ritual. Despite the chaos, the bond between the townspeople and the guardians held firm, their unified efforts repelling the entity's attacks. The ritual symbols, etched into the ground around the cemetery, began to emit a radiant light, encapsulating the entity in a sphere of energy, isolating it from the land it had been bound to for so long. Within this sphere, the entity writhed and contorted, its form becoming less malevolent, more pained, as the ritual's magic worked to cleanse the corruption that had tainted its purpose. The light intensified, reaching a blinding crescendo, and for a moment, everything was still, the fate of the ritual hanging in the balance. Then slowly the light receded, revealing the entity, now transformed. No longer a shadow of malice, it appeared as a guardian once more, its essence purified. The land's curse, the source of the town's long-standing turmoil, was finally lifted. However, the ritual had unforeseen consequences. The purification of the entity broke the cycle of guardianship, but it also unraveled the fabric of supernatural bonds that had woven through Greyhaven for centuries. The town was safe, but the connection to its spectral past and the guardians, including Anna, began to fade. Sarah, realizing the cost of their success, faced a bittersweet victory. The town was free from the threat, but the guardians, those who had sacrificed themselves over generations, were being released from their earthly ties, moving on to whatever lay beyond. The story pauses as Sarah grapples with the new reality. Greyhaven was safe, but the legacy of its guardians was disappearing. The town would need to find a new way to remember and honor the sacrifices that had protected it. As for Sarah, her journey had changed her, leaving her with a deeper understanding of the supernatural world and her family's role in it. She now stood at the forefront of a town, stepping into a future unshadowed by its past, yet forever shaped by it. As the last vestiges of the spectral guardians faded, including the figure of her sister Anna, Sarah felt a profound sense of loss mixed with relief. The guardians had fulfilled their purpose, and Greyhaven was now free from the cycle of sacrifice that had defined it for so long. The entity, once a source of fear and darkness, had returned to its original role as a protector of the land, no longer bound to the town, but watching over it from afar. In the aftermath, Greyhaven experienced a period of peace and renewal. The town's history, rich with supernatural and human struggles, became a subject of reverence rather than fear. Sarah, now respected as both a detective and a bridge between the natural and supernatural worlds, dedicated herself to documenting the town's true history, ensuring that the sacrifices and lessons of the past were not forgotten. The cemetery, especially the unmarked grave surrounded by lilacs, became a place of quiet reflection and remembrance. The townspeople, their lives no longer overshadowed by an ancient curse, began to thrive, their community stronger and more united than ever. Sarah often visited the cemetery, finding solace in the place where she had last seen Anna. One evening, as the sun set, casting a golden light over the graves, Sarah noticed a single lilac bloom on the unmarked grave, its fragrance sweet and comforting. She realized that while the guardians had moved on, their presence would always be felt in small ways, a reminder of the enduring bond between the town and those who had protected it. The story concludes with Sarah looking out over Greyhaven, her heart heavy yet hopeful. The town had emerged from its shadowed past, guided by the courage and love of its people and guardians. Though the supernatural threats were gone, the mysteries and wonders of the world beyond remained, a part of the town's legacy that Sarah and future generations would continue to explore and respect. In the end, Greyhaven stood not just as a town, but as a testament to the cycles of history and the power of redemption, its future bright with the promise of peace and the enduring watch of guardians, old and new, seen and unseen. Disturbing true college horror story, The Forgotten Dorm. In the heart of an ancient university town, nestled among modern buildings, stood a forgotten dormitory, its history shrouded in mystery and dark rumors. This dorm, known as Holloway Hall, had been closed for decades, its windows boarded up and its doors chained. Yet, inexplicably, it was reopened for the fall semester, assigned to a group of unsuspecting freshmen, including a curious and intrepid student named Mia. From the first night, Mia felt an eerie discomfort. The air in Holloway Hall was perpetually cold, and the dim hallways echoed with sounds that had no discernible source. Soft footsteps in the dead of night, whispers just below the threshold of understanding, and doors creaking open only to slam shut with no one in sight. Mia and her dorm mates began experiencing unnerving incidents. Personal belongings would go missing, only to reappear in bizarre places, like inside locked drawers or on unreachable ledges. Electronics malfunctioned without cause, and lights flickered erratically. Most disturbingly, several students reported seeing fleeting shadows and figures in the periphery of their vision. Figures that vanished when looked at directly. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Mia started investigating the history of Holloway Hall. She discovered that the dormitory was built over the remnants of an old estate that burned down under mysterious circumstances, with all its inhabitants perishing in the fire. Subsequent to the construction of the dormitory, students reported strange occurrences, leading to its closure after a series of unexplained accidents and the tragic disappearance of a student in the 1970s. Ignoring warnings from locals and the university's attempts to dissuade her, Mia delved deeper, uncovering records of ancient rites and occult practices linked to the land upon which Holloway Hall was built. The more she learned, the more intense the paranormal activities became, as if her investigations were stirring something that had been dormant. Late one night, Mia awoke to an oppressive silence, her room bathed in an unnatural, chilling light emanating from the hallway. She followed it to the basement, where where she found a hidden door behind an old, decaying bookshelf. Behind the door lay a series of tunnels leading to a sealed room containing artifacts and remnants of the original estate, along with diaries and documents that hinted at dark rituals and a powerful, malevolent entity that the original estate's owners had tried to control. The story pauses here, leaving the door open for the continuation of Mia's exploration into the tunnels and her discoveries about the true nature of the malevolent presence in Holloway Hall. Mia, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and adrenaline, delved deeper into the tunnels, the air growing colder, and the oppressive feeling of being watched intensifying with every step. The narrow, claustrophobic passageways seemed to stretch infinitely, their walls lined with archaic symbols and faded murals depicting scenes of arcane rituals and celestial alignments. As she ventured further, she stumbled upon a vast underground chamber, its center dominated by an ancient stone altar, surrounded by statues and relics that thrummed with an unseen power. The chamber was filled with the remnants of old ceremonies, candles long burned out, robes decayed by time, and books in languages forgotten by the modern world. Mia's eyes were drawn to a large, intricately carved mirror standing behind the altar, its surface shimmering with a spectral light. As she approached, the whispers that had plagued Holloway Hall grew louder, coalescing into a cacophony of voices that seemed to echo from the depths of the mirror itself. The documents she found in the sealed room spoke of the mirror as a gateway, a portal through which the estate's original owners sought to gain knowledge and power from beyond, contacting entities from other dimensions. The rituals conducted were meant to control these forces, but instead, they unleashed a malevolent spirit that grew in power, feeding on the life and sanity of the living. Mia realized that the reopening of Holloway Hall had reactivated the portal, and the disturbances were the result of the entity attempting to manifest fully in our world. She found references to a binding ritual, incomplete and fragmented, that could seal the portal and banish the entity. But it required knowledge of the specific celestial alignments and items of power scattered throughout the dorm and its hidden underground. Determined to stop the entity and save her fellow students, Mia began to gather these items, each discovery leading to more intense encounters with the spectral inhabitants of Holloway Hall. Her actions did not go unnoticed by the entity, which began to perceive her as a threat, leading to a dangerous game of cat and mouse through the twisting corridors of both the dorm and the underground chamber. The story pauses as Mia, armed with her discoveries and the gathered items of power, prepares to confront the entity in a final attempt to seal the portal. Her actions setting the stage for a confrontation that blurs the line between the physical and the supernatural. In the sealed room beneath Holloway Hall, Mia uncovered ancient artifacts and tomes that spoke of a pact made with a dark entity, a being summoned for power and knowledge, but which had turned malevolent, demanding sacrifices. The documents detailed the founder's struggles to contain it, ultimately leading to the estate's fiery demise, which was orchestrated to seal the entity beneath the ruins. The more Mia read, the more she realized that the reopening of Holloway Hall was no accident. It was a calculated move by a secret society within the university, descendants of the original estate's owners, seeking to harness the entity's power for themselves. They believed that with the right knowledge and rituals, they could control the entity. As Mia pieced together the history, the disturbances in Holloway Hall intensified. The shadows grew bolder, now lingering in sight, their forms more discernible and menacing. Students began to sleepwalk, disappearing for hours and returning with no memory of where they had been or what they had done. Mia and a small group of friends, who had also noticed the strange occurrences, decided to confront the entity. They used the information from the ancient tomes to prepare, arming themselves with talismans and incantations that had been used in the past to ward off the dark forces. One night, following the path laid out in the diaries, they ventured into the tunnels, moving deeper underground toward the heart of the malevolent force. The air grew colder, the oppressive silence pierced only by their footsteps and the occasional echoing drip of water. As they reached the end of the tunnel, they found themselves in a vast underground chamber, the walls lined with esoteric symbols and the remains of old, failed containment circles. In the center of the room stood a large black stone altar, pulsing with an eerie, dark energy. Mia and her friends felt the weight of invisible eyes upon them, and the air thrummed with the presence of the entity, its malevolence palpable. They began the ritual to reseal the entity, using the ancient words and talismans they had gathered. As they chanted, the entity's anger manifested in physical tremors and gusts of wind, attempting to break their concentration and thwart the ritual. The story pauses here, leaving Mia and her friends in the midst of their dangerous confrontation with the entity, the outcome of their ritual uncertain, and the true nature of the entity's power and desires yet to be fully revealed. As Mia and her friends chanted the ancient incantations, the entity's presence became increasingly aggressive. The ground beneath them shook, and the air was filled with a cacophony of whispers and screams, as if the very walls of the chamber were protesting. The dark energy emanating from the altar intensified, casting elongated shadows that twisted and writhed like living things. Despite the chaos, the group persevered, their voices rising above the din, empowered by the talismans and the strength of their collective will, the symbols on the walls began to glow faintly, responding to the ritual, containing the energy that surged through the chamber. Suddenly, the whispers coalesced into a clear voice, ancient and anguished, revealing the entity's tragic origins. It spoke of being summoned against its will, trapped and used for the earthly desires of power and control. The voice conveyed a deep sorrow, tainted with centuries of rage and pain, yearning for release. Mia, sensing a shift in the entity's demeanor, altered the ritual slightly, infusing it with an element of liberation rather than containment. This gamble revealed a new path in the ancient texts, a way to free the entity without unleashing its wrath upon the world. The chamber's atmosphere began to change, the oppressive darkness giving way to a dim, sorrowful light. The ground stilled, and the air warmed slightly as the ritual reached its culmination. The entity's form, previously an indistinct mass of shadows, started to coalesce into a more defined figure, its features etched with centuries of suffering. As the final words of the ritual were spoken, a sudden silence fell over the chamber. The entity, now visibly less tormented, communicated a silent gratitude to Mia and her friends, before dissipating in a gentle flurry of light, its essence finally freed from the earthly bindings. However, just as the group began to relax, believing the ordeal was over, they realized that the entity's release had unforeseen consequences. The balance between the supernatural and the natural within Holloway Hall had been altered. New pathways had opened, and dormant spirits stirred, awakened by the disturbance of their realm. The story pauses with Mia and her friends facing the realization that their actions, while ending one nightmare, might have begun another. Holloway Hall's walls, long steeped in hidden histories and spiritual turmoil, hinted at deeper secrets and challenges yet to be faced, setting the stage for further exploration into the unknown depths of the college's past. With the entity freed and the immediate threat seemingly resolved, Mia and her friends returned to the surface, the quiet of Holloway Hall around them, belying the turmoil just beneath. Yet, the release of the entity had indeed stirred something more within the old dormitory, and perhaps beyond. In the following days, the atmosphere in Holloway Hall shifted. It was lighter, but an undercurrent of something else, something ancient and watchful, lingered. Mia noticed that the historical anomalies of the dorm were not just contained within its walls, but seemed to bleed into the surrounding campus, affecting areas previously untouched by the strange occurrences. Whispers of the past began to echo, not only in Holloway Hall, but in other buildings as well. And students reported seeing apparitions, not just from the dorm's history, but from the entire university's lineage. It appeared that the entity's containment had also held back a reservoir of spectral energy, which was now seeping into the present. Curious and concerned, Mia organized a group of students and faculty, including historians and paranormal researchers, to delve into this expanded mystery. Their investigation uncovered that the university's grounds were built atop a confluence of ley lines, channels of the Earth's energy, which had been disrupted by the entity's imprisonment, and now its release. This revelation led them to explore not just Holloway Hall, but also other ancient sites on campus, each with its own hidden history and spectral inhabitants. They discovered that the university was a patchwork of different energies and histories, intertwined and until now suppressed. One site, in particular, drew their attention. An old, abandoned theater where the earliest students had performed rituals and plays, some of which were rumored to have actual magical significance. As Mia and her team investigated, they found props and scripts that hinted at attempts to harness and control these natural energies, possibly to enhance the university's academic success and influence. As the full moon approached, unexplained phenomena escalated across the campus, suggesting that a larger, more complex ritual was needed to restore balance. Mia and her team began to prepare, gathering ancient texts, artifacts, and aligning their efforts with the ley line's natural flows. The story pauses as they stand on the brink of a campus-wide event, aiming to harmonize the disrupted energies. Their actions would not only affect the spiritual turbulence, but also reveal the deeper connections between the university's storied past and the fabric of the supernatural world that intertwined with it. And her